So you literally were one of my very first followers. And then when you followed me and I, followed back, I was like, this dude is cool. Like,
if they say talk to your manager, you just say, you know what, talk to the hand. You don't need to be on my podcast. But yeah, dude. Yeah, you do a great job.
Thank you. I always get a kick out of talking with you on Patreon. You have a really good, view on everything.
That wasn't planned.
You know what? But I like this Canadian.
Well,
I like this one.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. What's happening, everybody? Happy Thursday. I'm glad it's Thursday. It's almost Friday. Long week. It's been a long week, and I'm really tired, but I really wanted to get this particular topic out. Now, I know that I was pretty much done talking about this, and she's off the show, but curiosity finally got the best of me. And I finally listened to this Janelle interview on the Zach Nichols podcast. Lord knows the main reason why it took me this long to listen to this interview is because I'm not a fan of Zach Nichols. I've never been a fan of Zach from the challenge. Still not a fan of Zach from the challenge, even though I've seen like tons of his little snippets of his show on like Instagram or TikTok or whatever. But I'm like, do I really want to listen to Zach Nichols talk for an hour, 2 hours? Not really. And I must say that it was hard to get through this interview, but I guess just the journalism side of myself, even though I'm not a journalist, I feel like I'm somewhat of a journalist when it comes to making my content and putting out different stories, to where I feel like I cannot just only speak on one side without seeing the various facts that people put out there. So thus far, I had only seen like little snippets, what Jasmine said on Twitter, what Janelle said on Instagram. It was just little bits and pieces of things. This was the first bit of concrete information that I had ever seen on this particular subject, which is the whole Jasmine versus Ayana thing. So what the fans had said online was that Ayana said disgusting and deplorable things to Jasmine about race and about the fact that she was with a white man, and that she also said that to Jasmine. And it created this whole big thing. And then she had this huge overarching argument with Leroy, Cam, and Brandon. I didn't hear Leroy and Cam ever say that. I think I saw something about Brandon in some comment section, but he didn't really specifically say anything. So this was the most concrete thing that I had seen. So in this interview, Janelle goes into the interview. And I have to say this too. I know that some people are going to say, oh, we don't care. Get to the tea. I don't care about you. If you just care about the tea, then you don't know my channel. I do not get to the tea. I have a big introduction and I go all over the place. Hi, Colleen. Good evening. So to start off, something that just grinds my gears about certain interviews in general, this is not specific to Zach, even though it applies to Zach's interviews. It's not specific to him because a lot of channels do this. When they get somebody on their channel, they're very pro that person. And I'm not saying that when you get somebody on your channel, you're going to attack them and you're going to call them out and you're going to be really vicious. Hi, Ronald. Because I don't do that either. I like for my interview space to be a safe space for people to join. And I've been told that by some of the people that I've interviewed, that they appreciate that I'm a safe space channel, that I don't make them look like a fool, that I'm not there with some hidden agenda to make them look bad. However, there's a difference between being kind of neutral versus you're not even trying to discover the truth. You are just pro that person and anti the person that they might be talking about. And that's what I found with both Zach and his host when it came to this interview of Janelle, when it came to Ayanna, because Zach, as far as I know, has never met Ayanna, never spoken to her a day in his life, knows nothing about her aside from what he's seen on TV like us, and I guess what he's heard from his other challenge friends, but he has no personal experience with her. But he's calling her crazy, he's calling her insane. You know, I don't like that, because you don't have that experience to say that. You don't have that experience with her, is what I'm trying to say that. But anyways, we get into it. Janelle talks about how the beef with her and Ayanna started from the Challenge All-Stars Season 2. She said she was surprised that Ayanna got invited back. She told some story, which I'm not even going to really get into. It's nothing crazy. I didn't really understand it, but I think it was just extra sauce to paint this picture of this person that she doesn't like. It is what it is. But she said that on Season 2, just to keep it more general, she said that a lot of castmates had problems and issues with Ayanna. They were scared of her and they were scared to speak out against her. And she said that when she first met Ayanna on All Stars 2, she was like, I loved her. You know, like she said that she was basically the Rachel to Ayanna, like how Rachel is with Ayanna on Season 4. She said she was like that to Ayanna on Season 2, where Ayanna was going off on people, or Ayanna was having trouble getting along and she was throwing tantrums and whatever. And Janelle said she was the person who really calmed her down and was like, remember, you're doing this for your kids. She said she enjoyed being around her at the beginning and was like, this is an inspiring woman with an inspiring story, single mother of 4 kids. I really want to see her succeed. That's what she was saying happened at the beginning. She talked about the salad moment and she was describing it. And she said it's cool that CBS, I guess, Paramount Plus made it look funny, but she said it was very tense and very troubling in person. I don't know. Even when she was describing the extra parts that made it tense, it didn't change what I think of that moment, because I think it was 2 people who didn't like living together. Ayanna described it to me when I interviewed her. I mean, you could look in the interview that I did with her 2 years ago when I asked her about that salad moment where she ate Jody's salad. And she was just saying the way that she grew up, there was no maids around and there was no people to clean up after you. And she said it was kind of a trigger for her to live in that house with all those people who just depended on the staff to clean up after them, where, you know, they made the kitchen a mess. They wouldn't empty the trash. They wouldn't take their things off the counter. And she was upset about that because she was like, I'm going to treat this place, even though I'm on a TV show and I could just leave it for someone else to do, I'm going to treat this place with the same respect that I treat my home. And she specifically mentioned to me also, I like Ayanna, so much nonsense they spread. Hi, Cass. And she specifically mentioned that a lot of them just didn't clean up after themselves and it just made her feel away. And, you know, I get it. So she said that if you have followed Ayanna's history, she's been kicked off a show before for controversial reasons. She's had different fights and beefs with people before. So she said Ayanna of the past, when she was in her 20s and she first got on the show, was not like anything like Challenge All-Star 2 Ayanna that was already in her 40s and has 4 kids. It was a different person. So she said she was actually getting really mad about the big deal that Jody was making about this salad and the fact that she was being called a thief and the fact that they were just, putting all these things on her name, that she said, instead of reacting how I used to react, I'm actually going to try to be a better person and turn this and flip this into a funny moment. I am going to say, I don't think a lot of people get her sense of humor. I think that if you don't actually know her and you see some of the things that she says, you're like, I'm not gonna, what did she say? Nancy Kerrigan. It was a while ago. I can't remember. Forgive me. But anyways, she said something on there that people were like, whoa, that's kind of scary and weird. But she has an interesting sense of humor. But anyways, skipping ahead to this season, this is the part that everybody has been talking about. Everybody has been saying the part that I mentioned a minute ago about her allegedly calling Jasmine is lagging. Yeah, Nancy Kerrigan. Yeah. I think that's what she said, didn't she? Oh, I'm not going to Tanya Harding you. I think that's what she said. I think Nancy Kerrigan was the one who actually got stabbed. I'm not laughing at that. It's just the reference was like, oh boy. Is it lagging for everyone? Oh, okay. So anyways, fast forward to this season. Yeah. So they were saying that she was making remarks about both Jasmine and Janelle's partners and saying, I don't know, they were sellouts. Maybe they were cultural sellouts or something because they were with white men. So I was waiting to see if Janelle was going to say that was actually said, because so many people in these groups were telling me it's already been said and it's proven. And so she's a disgusting person or whatever. So in the interview, Janelle didn't actually say that, but she did say, she was like, she said, I'm half white and half black. And she said that she has a white and Japanese husband, and she has multiracial children. And so she was also saying, that she was having an argument No, it was kind of all drama. Tanya Harding and Nancy. So Skana from Ukraine took the gold from both of them. Anyways, yeah, so she was saying that she was having an argument with Ayanna on season 2. And she said that another castmate was in the room and said to them, 2 strong black women shouldn't be fighting like this. And she said that the comment that Ayanna made was, she's not one of us. So she said that she felt like that comment took away her blackness. Like Ayanna was trying to take away her blackness by making that comment. It didn't say that she said anything about the husband or anything like that, but she said it's an attack on her blackness, and she didn't want her kids to look at it and feel away and feel uncomfortable. So she felt a strong way about that. So she then said that coming into All Stars 4, she did not know the relationship that Ayanna had built with Rachel. I know that Ayanna has known Rachel for a long time, and I think they were on a very early season together. But I think that they kind of rekindled their friendship in recent years, and it was a stronger bond, and nobody really knew that at that time, including Janelle. So Janelle said that she spoke to Rachel, Veronica, and Tina about Ayana immediately. Coming into the house before anything happened, she went and had a conversation with them, and she was telling them about her allegations of the things that happened on season 2, not knowing that those are her friends. So word got back to Ayana, presumably from them. They told Ayana, probably Rachel told Ayana, this is what Janelle is saying about you. And I saw on Cam and Lee's podcast that they said things were being said about Ayana to them from jump. They did not say who, and I'm not going to say it was all Janelle, but I'm sure that one of the people who was talking to them about Ayana was definitely Janelle, because we know that Janelle I think it was cutting out again, but sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know why it's doing that. But the thing about Ayana, she compartmentalizes the show very well, because if you were to ever see her life outside of the challenge, which I have seen, it's so different from her life inside the challenge. She's like this family person. Like if you meet her kids are so respectful, like old school respectful. Take your plate, come greet you. Like if you meet her circle, it's just a whole different vibe from anything you see on TV. I've mentioned this story before, but she met my sister and I, or she already had met me, but she met my sister with me last summer. And when we left, my sister was like, oh, that Ayana lady is really nice. I like her. And then I showed her some of the TV clips, and she was like, she said, that's not the person we just met, is it? And I was like, this is definitely the person we just met. And she's like, wow, she's nothing like that. So yeah, when I say she compartmentalizes well, I mean, I don't feel like she really holds things on the show like the way how other people hold things on the show. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's the same thing. Like if I go into a work environment, I only give so much of myself to the work environment. So it takes a lot for people to personally make me feel hurt. But other people, they have lesser of a line. It's like, I'm me everywhere. I'm me here and I'm me over here. So they go into those same environments, and when coworkers stab them in the back, they feel like it's their sister or their brother who has stabbed them in the back. So I think that was how Janelle felt in a sense. And I'm still going to say allegedly, because I don't know exactly how this conversation went, but I'm sure there was some kind of argument or dispute that she's talking about. People get being politically correct and being a genuine, nice person mixed up. And this is the other thing. I agree with that. I'm glad you said that, because it reminded me of a point that I wanted to make about Zach. When Janelle was talking to Zach on this podcast of his, Zach was sounding like, oh, he said, I would never swear on my kids, and especially now that I have kids. Ayana's this terrible person. She said that you were gaslighting. She's gaslighting, and I'm going to get to the gaslighting part also. Zach got the benefit of being on the show at a time when people didn't have podcasts and people weren't really highly using things like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. He might have even been on before that era. And if he was on during that era, it was more early on in that era. Like now, the Challenge All-Star 4 comes out. This person has a podcast. This one has a podcast. This one is going to go live on Instagram and talk about all the behind the scenes tea. This one is going to talk and clear up this situation on their TikTok. This one's going to say this, and this one's going to say that. Back when Zach was on, you go on the show, and there's not this large online contingency to cook you up. Because I clearly remember several incidents of Zach. Do you think Zach would have survived when he and Frank were getting in Sam's face during that final? Well, during the whole season, but especially during the final when they were banging up on her and they were just calling her all kinds of names. Would Zach have gotten away with his treatment of Janelle? I remember him sitting around and saying that women are a lesser species than men. He was like, we are a superior species to women in every way. He said that on camera. I remember when Zach had Nia or Naya, however you say it, Nia or Naya. I always get it mixed up, but you know who I'm talking about. I remember when he dared her to drink his sweat, and she drank his freaking sweat. Zach was disgusting and would have been canceled if he was doing those things on TV in 2024. And I know people will say, well, Ayanna's, mid 40s and she shouldn't be doing those things, blah, blah, blah. She should be more mature than that. But I guess my point is she was off of TV for a very long time. She was not part of this politically correct era. She was part of the era where you would get on the show and they just walk behind you with the cameras and film whatever they catch of whatever. They don't coach you. You're not rehearsed. You're not like a social media influencer with a brand to protect. You're just you. And I think that she has learned a little bit. I shouldn't say a little bit. She's learned not to be the person she was when she was 20, but she has not learned how to be politically correct. So I think that she was real in a lot of situations. And in this era, being real gets you canceled. So if, let's say that all of this happened with her saying, you're not one of us. These are conversations that happen amongst the Black community all the time. When I was growing up, I've mentioned this before, grew up in Canada. I had people tell me, oh, you're an Oreo. I had somebody come on my live the other day who, I don't know if they were Black, but possibly they were a Black person that said, you talk white. Offensive, definitely, but these conversations happen. That's the truth. I know that people who are not used to hearing those types of things spoken about don't realize how common they are off camera, but these are like off camera conversations. Anyways, Janelle said that Ayanna apologized to her for that moment on All Stars 2, but she said she felt like the apology was forced and because she had to, because she thought that she would have been canceled if she did not apologize. If she apologized, she apologized. I mean, my feeling is like, who are you to really determine somebody's heart and if they're sorry for something? But anyways, fast forward. Something that Janelle said made me realize that they did a masterful edit of a particular spot. And that was when they showed Ayanna. This is how they showed it on the show. They showed Ayanna at that bar or club, whatever it was, telling that group of people that that Janelle wants Jasmine in the elimination, which now I've heard from multiple sources was actually true. She basically admitted was true on the Zach Nichols podcast. And then it showed this argument that ensued later on after the club that eventually led to Janelle deciding to leave the show. And it showed Ayanna being like, she gaslights people and then she cries to get their sympathy. So Janelle said that was part of this larger argument that seems to have started from Ayanna again being mad that Janelle was going around and talking to people about the All-Stars 2 experience and saying that she believes that Ayanna is racist, or she said something that was race related that she didn't like or whatever. And then she said Ayanna was telling Rachel in the group, she said, if anything, if you want to think that I'm racist, actually Janelle is racist. So that paints to me a little bit of a different picture than what I've been seeing online, which makes it look like just a fourth instead of a back and forth, if you understand what I'm saying. It makes it look like Ayanna just gave her this onslaught until she left. But it seems like, and I was told by Ayanna, that this was a very, very long discussion that was snipped up into a very succinct thing that didn't even really tell the story of what happened. So that's that. My thing is, this is one thing that I was going to say regarding Ayanna, and it might be admirable or it might not be smart. It depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. Ayanna doesn't really defend herself online. Because if you can think back to All-Stars 2, the main incident, I mean, yeah, there was a salad moment that we saw and everyone had their versions of it, whatever. But a big thing that we saw early on that people jumped on Ayanna for in that season was for this thing where Sophia had asked Ayanna to braid her hair. So now you can be a nasty person, but if you publicly say things that the majority, yeah, you pretty much got it. If you're a kind person but do things that the majority disagrees with, you're Satan. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So it showed this moment where Ayanna was braiding Sophia's hair, and then it didn't show what happened, but Sophia said that she had this traumatizing, triggering memory of this certain braid that she used to get in her hair and the way that it was done when she was young. And they had some fight off of it, and it showed Ayanna pretty much being like, I'm done with her, and now I want her to go in to the elimination, and I want her to leave the show. So Sophia went around and spoke about that incident, and she spoke about Ayanna, and she spoke negatively of her. And Ayanna never cleared her name. Even when I asked her, off the camera, yes, she did explain things to me. When I asked her in the interview that went online, she was like, I'm not answering that. I'm just going to say how I felt about her going around and doing this kind of smear campaign on me, but I'm not going to explain the incident. The same thing is happening here. I had an actual phone conversation with Ayanna, which is the reason why I believe that a lot of things were, I don't know what to call it, exaggerated, and some of them even fabricated. I have reason to believe that. I mean, nobody else has to believe that, because if you didn't have those conversations, you're just going off of the information that's out there. But that's my whole point. Because these people went out and said, this is what Ayanna said and this is what Ayanna did, I think that it would benefit her to be like, I'm going to rebuttal these specific things that are being said. With that being said, it's everybody's prerogative to handle things how they want to handle them. And that's her prerogative. Maybe she is protecting her peace, and maybe she doesn't want to go back and forth online with fans. Obviously, we know that she's battling cancer right now, so she has bigger things going on than the opinions of the fan base of the challenge. But what I'm saying is, they say that a conquest story, a story always, I'm not going to remember the phrase, but basically, the person who has the upper hand in the story is the one who is there to tell the story. And we're hearing stories from all these different various places, and we're not getting counters from Ayanna. So people are taking those stories as facts. That show was taped like a year and 3-4 months ago, and people are talking about it as if it happened yesterday. And it just, life, our brains just don't work that way. Unless you're actually looking at that footage actively, you're not necessarily going to remember exactly what was said by you or exactly what was said by them. But what you are going to remember is the feel of how it made you feel. And whatever took place in that conversation made Janelle feel a way. I just wish that this stuff wasn't being fed to the Johnny Bananas podcast or the Zach Nichols podcast, whatever podcast that this has gone around to. I wish that this would either be a personal one-on-one conversation with the other party or nothing said at all. That's how I feel, because I keep saying I watch these shows because my life has enough stress and enough drama of its own that when I come to watch these shows, I'm here to watch the drama. Don't get me wrong. I like the drama. I like the entertainment. But now when we're getting into these podcasts where it's getting like messy and sloppy, and we're talking about all these personal things that we don't see on the camera, to me, that's not fun. And nobody can call it fun who's really indulged in it either. Because if you look at their comments, they're saying, I hate Ayanna. She should never be on TV again. People are saying that her kids would be better off without her in this world. People are actually saying that. Cancer is your karma for how you treated Janelle and Jasmine. That's crazy to me. But me saying that is not going to change the fandom. The fandom is the fandom. But that's just not something that I'm going to indulge in. I believe that the truth is somewhere between this side and this side. And I mean between what Ayanna's saying and what Janelle is saying, the truth meets somewhere in the middle. Because she said, Zach was like, oh, speak your truth, Janelle. She was like, oh, I'm sorry that I have to do this, blah, blah, blah. But I want to speak my truth. Yeah, that's your truth. You have a truth. She has a truth. We all live our lives from different perspectives. And perception is not always reality. I feel like the most accurate way for me would be to hear from multiple different people that were in that room, which I will not hear from them. But if I heard from like 5-6 different people in the room, I would listen to what each of them said individually. I would compare that. And then I would be like, these are things that I find similar in each story. But if I hear 10 people who hate one person say the same thing, it's like hearing from one person because they all hate her. So they're not trying to say anything objective. That was my impression from that podcast. The hosts don't like Ayanna. The guest doesn't like Ayanna. So this was the He-Man Ayanna Haters Club. So I don't feel like we got a good depiction. We got a good, there was no bounce back, or there was no really good questions, thought-provoking questions. It was just go on, say what you got to say, get that word out, go home. It was unnecessary. And to the people who say, oh, you shouldn't give her a pass, because she's battling cancer. This is what I got to say to that. I lost my dad last year, as you know, 1 year ago. And it was the hardest experience of my life. He was battling for 3 years, not cancer, but he was battling dementia and Alzheimer's. No matter what you feel about this woman, she has 4 kids at home. She's a single parent who has cancer, who is taking care of these 4 kids. These 4 kids want their mom in their lives. And I think it's disgusting to take an argument, even if the argument was off the wall. Let's say it was off the chain and as wild as everyone is describing it, right? I don't think that's a reason to deserve to die. She didn't kill anybody. She may have hurt some feelings. She did hurt some feelings, obviously, because there's people speaking on this with hurt feelings. She didn't kill anybody. She didn't physically harm somebody. We've seen people do way more on the challenge. Listen, CT punched 2 people in the face on the show. One of them completely unprovoked. He punched Davis in the face. Davis went on some podcast and talked about it. CT came back to the show multiple times and won multiple times after that. I already mentioned some of Zach's rap sheet. Remember the things that Johnny Bananas was saying during his prime and his heyday. We could think of the Jordan situation that got him off the show for a while. We can think of like Wes, who I love, Wes, pouring the soda on Cara Maria's head. There's some other even worse things, obviously. I don't have to go through a whole challenge rap sheet. But there's much worse that happened on the show, even than what's being alleged. And the way that people are responding to that is just disgusting to me. Yes, we should give her some grace. We can comment on the show. Absolutely. Comment on you don't like what you saw on the show. You don't like how she played the game. You don't like what they showed of the argument. You don't have to like any of that stuff. That's fine. It's a show. We have people we gravitate towards. We have people we love. We have people we hate. We have people we're indifferent towards. But let's just realize that show is show. Life is life. She's fighting a battle for her life. And it's a tough battle. And like I said, I've spoken to her about that. So I feel very, very, very sympathetic to her situation. You don't have to be, because I wouldn't necessarily feel as much sympathy if I didn't know her. But I would still feel some sympathy just because I know that this is a mother of 4 fighting a really tough battle. She just had a double mastectomy and she's home recovering, reading all this hate. And it's just not right. And that's all I have to say about that. I know there's so many other channels that are going to say, that have been saying so many other things. My channel is never going to say that. I just wanted to give y'all the information that I saw on the other podcast. And, you know, a little bit of my opinion about it. And that's that. It's also whoever shouts the loudest. Yeah, that too. People throw around the word hate so flippantly these days. Absolutely. I feel like even on a show, even if I say I hate somebody on a show, I feel like I don't even think of it as hate for real. It's just like I hate what I see of them on the show, but I'm like indifferent towards them in real life because I don't know them. I don't care enough to know them. I don't know if people think if they don't hate a person, they do. That's how, this is the thing with this era. That's how people act nowadays. Yeah, and here's the thing. If a bunch of people are in a room and somebody states an opinion, but it's on TV and there's cameras around, a lot of these people are trained to do and say the most politically correct thing. So somebody can make a political statement. This is the crazy part. They said that Ayanna also had a political based argument with all these people, right? I don't know how many people were in the room at the time, but if you walk into a random room of 10 different people, black, white, whatever they are, Spanish, Chinese, I don't care, and you say, what political party are you following? And you got their real opinions. It's probably going to be like 4 one way, 4 another way, 2 other. Most of the people would probably just opt to not be in the conversation at all because of the fear of cancellation. And I'm not going to lie, I don't participate in those conversations at work. And as a matter of fact, when I was doing counseling before, one of the rules that they told us at my old job, do not talk to the clients about religion or politics. If they say something about politics, divert the conversation to something else. And if they say something about religion, you can honor and respect whatever they said, but don't give your opinion for or against, even if it's your same religion. Don't do that because it's a potential trigger point. They'll tell you that. Let's see. Colleen, oh, I hate it. I hate it. Bully, gaslight, narcissistic, the way that they use those words so loosely and freely. And it killed me that Zach, who, I mean, I don't know if he's grown and changed in his outside life, but at least Zach on the show was the ultimate narcissist. The ultimate narcissist. And he's out here calling her all these wild names. And I said this yesterday or the day before, whenever I made that other live. I find it bullying to single out the person who states an opinion different than the general majority. Like, if the whole majority of the room says, I like the color blue, and then this person over here says, hey, I like the color green better. And then everyone on the other side of the room is like, what's wrong with them? You're supposed to like blue. And if you don't like blue, you stay over there. You're the problem. It's like, I don't understand that. Hey, Vicky, I'm almost done here, but I'm glad that you showed up. Nice to see you on here. I really do feel for Ayanna, though. Cancer is no joke. All of it. I'm telling you. I feel like this will be a known thing for people who are watching this who have either had it themselves or known somebody who has gone through it. But, you know, she's told me that this process of the chemo, she's talked about it actually publicly. So I can say this, that the chemo process was so hard and so taxing for her. And then the decision to have both breasts removed to increase the chances of her living the longest possible life, because her mother had cancer. I don't know if it was breast cancer, but she had some form of cancer, and she passed in her 40s. So I remember when I interviewed her, she said that she had outlived her mother at that point by a couple of years. So her mother died in her early 40s of cancer. And she really thinks about her children and the fact that she wants to be there for them as long as possible. She's fighting this really, really, really tough battle. I feel like if this was me personally, like if this was some kind of killer who went on some rampage and like murdered my sister, maybe at that point in time, I'd be like, yeah, I got to just drag them in all this challenge mess. You know, like I would feel really angry for the rest of my life. But if it's like, we had an argument in the house that hurt my feelings, and then I left the house, I went back to my career, being a nurse. My family is still intact. My health is intact. I'm still with my spouse, and I still am raising my beautiful children at home, and I have a good life. And this kind of thing comes out, and I know that the other person that was on the other side of this argument is not living so well right now because of their health condition. And I know they also have a family. They also have kids. You know, kids that are worried how much longer they're going to have their mom in their life. Leave it alone. That's why I'm so irritated, hurt by these podcasts, because the interviewers just care about the entertainment. They don't care about what it potentially could do mentally to somebody who is already going through mental anguish. Leave it alone. It's just like the people who are going in on Nelson about his DUI. I get it. People have lost people to drunk driving accidents. Nelson lost his foot. He didn't hit anyone with his car. He was the one who got the damage done to himself, physically and mentally. He doesn't have a foot. He has 1 foot now. Leave that alone. You don't have to say anything more to kick him or drag them down. But hers wasn't even that type of situation. My brother was on chemo, and at the end, he wanted to pass anyways. He said the chemo made him so sick, he didn't want it anymore. And I have a good friend who currently has been battling cancer. I have a friend who lost his mom when she was in her 30s, when we were still in high school. I think we had just finished high school. She had pancreatic cancer, and nicest lady. And I remember from the time when she got her diagnosis, she passed 6 months later. It was stage 4, and it was a horrible death. It was a horrible death. So I just feel like once you've seen and experienced certain things that happen in life, you realize what's important and what isn't. And I'm not saying that your feelings are not important, but I'm just saying this is much bigger than that. This is much, much bigger than that, I promise you. I've heard that too. I've heard it and I've seen it. Even my aunt had cancer, and she passed recently. February, end of February, and I went over to her funeral, and I just remember she lost so much weight, and she was just, when I would speak to her, she would describe the pain that she was in, and she did everything to be there for her kids, her grandkids, and she was there as long as she could. And it's tough, man. Just so I don't think anyone should ever be saying, I know she has cancer, but I know she's going through this terrible experience. Prayers up for her, but like I said, you're not gonna say that if it's your mom, if it's your sister, if it's your friend, if it's you. You're gonna want that same sympathy that some few people are asking for, like myself, to give her, to ease up on her. I don't think that's too much to ask. It's good you bring it to light. Somebody will see this and gain a new perspective. I hope they will. But I know that it's more fun and it's more entertaining to dogpile on people, to kick them when they're down. I know that's more fun. So I know more people are going to do that than the people that are going to change their minds. And I'm not saying change their mind about her, but I'm just saying change their mind about the decision to jump on her while she's already down. And those same people would be putting RIP in the comment section, like pray for the children. Come on. Victims get abused, the internet, but that doesn't excuse them from stealing a bag of chips from Walmart. Honestly, when did the challenge community and this reality TV community in general become the moral police? Like, I said this the other day, if you followed some of these same fans that are saying all these things and you follow them around for a day, for even a day or two, 24 hours, uncensored, I'm sure that a lot of y'all would have cancelable offenses from what you're calling cancelable. Do you not argue with anyone in your real life? Do you never have debates on sensitive topics where you don't agree with the majority of the room? Has that never happened before? I lost family to cancer, and some got through, and one that's going through it now. I'm sorry, Vicky. It's so rough. My bro had Hodgkin's lymphoma lasted a year, sorry. Caught too late. Yeah, so that's going to be how I'm going to end it. I'm not going to deny whatever hurt Janelle feels over whatever comments. We didn't see them, so she knows what was said. Ayana knows what was said. That's that. And possibly whoever else was there when those conversations were happening. But even the person that was there is not going to remember it the same as the parties who were involved. So that's why I say she knows exactly what was said to an extent of whatever her memory is letting her remember. And Ayana knows what was said. And leave it between them. It's over. These conversations were at minimum like close to a year and a half ago. It's done. Let's move on. And I want to thank everybody for joining my live. If you lasted this long or watched this long, I especially rock with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And do me a favor if you can. If you're on social media, show Ayana a little bit of love. Send her a nice comment. Shoot her a DM. She's responsive in the DMs. Give her an encouraging word. Or if you don't want to do that, do me another favor. Just don't talk about her or leave her be. If you don't like her, that's fine. Let her do her and you do you. And I hope everybody has a great evening. And I'll talk to you soon.